Before today's conversation begins, we want to acknowledge that this episode includes discussions surrounding suicide and profound grief. These stories are shared with the intention of bringing compassion, awareness, and hope to experiences that are often carried in silence. If at any point you need to pause, step away, or seek support, please honor that. With that, let's begin today's episode.
All right. So, okay. So, what I'm going to do, even though I've already started the recording, I'm going to do like an intro, welcoming everybody back to the show, and then I'll bring you in, and then I'll just run with the questions. And again, just like I was saying, we're just you and I talking, just like we did over the phone. And if you feel like we just need to take a pause for a moment, we can do that. Okay. All right. Welcome back to After the Silence. Today's conversation is a tender one. We're sitting with grief, love, and loss, and what it means to continue living in the aftermath of something that changes you. So, to anyone listening, whatever you feel while listening to this is welcome here. So, Libby, I want to thank you for being here and for your willingness to share something so incredibly personal and near and dear to your heart.
Thank you for having me today.
Absolutely. So, we're going to start with the love part here. So, I would just love for you to tell us about him.
His name was Andres, and sorry,
It's
just
okay. Take your time.
the happy part.
The
he,
happy part can bring tears too.
he was my everything. He was more than my boyfriend. He was my person. He was my best friend. He understood me on a level that no one else did. He saw me. He gave me everything. It was effortless, our relationship. He gave me emotional security. He made my nervous system so completely at ease. That was a first for me ever in my lifetime. He made sure that I always knew how he felt about me, just in how he took care of me, how he spoke to me, how he allowed me to speak and not speak about myself. He always made sure that I knew how important I was to him and how important we were to him.
Mm,
It was the best.
that's
Yep.
beautiful. And so, what did you love most about him?
So I used to joke with him, like our relationship, when I say it was effortless, it was truly effortless. Like every relationship requires work, but when it's something that speaks to your soul and just fits like the missing piece, that work is so easy to say yes to doing every day.
Absolutely.
Um, and I used to laugh because he was like truly, he had the biggest and most giving heart. Like one of the things that really brought him purpose was trying to help others not only believe in themselves and their dreams, but helping them get there. And outside of that, he was just a big kid. Like he was a lover of life. He lived life on the edge. He lived life super large and loud. And I used to tell him, like, I think the reason he and I clicked so well and so easily is whereas most adults try to live their life trying to reclaim a piece of their childhood or reclaim a piece of their innocence, back when nothing mattered, I think he and I are still very much children that have to sometimes act like adults. And so when we have to be professional or politically correct, like we were just two kids that, I mean, it sounds crazy when people are like, oh, like I'm obsessed with my partner, not like in a negative way, but like
Yeah.
We literally could spend days on end with each other. We would not get bored. We could stare at paint dry on a wall and somehow it was, he was so much fun to be with because he just was just so large. Like, I don't know, he just found the joy in almost everything. So it was just super easy to be around him.
That's beautiful. And I love the fact that y'all acted like, children. Y'all enjoyed the little things. And I feel that, which is something I've personally have experienced as well, is just that sometimes, as adults, we forget what it's like just to cut up and have fun, and it's okay. We're stuck in this, like, we have to be professional. We can't act silly, but I love that he also helped bring that out of you more, and y'all were able to enjoy being silly and doing crazy things, and that makes it fun. I don't know.
Yeah. Honestly, one of our favorite things to do was just to go for a walk. Like most nights, we would end our evening, we would sometimes with the dogs, sometimes not. We would just walk. And we would be like, well, how far, how long are we walking? We'd be like, I don't know until it feels turn around. And we could walk for hours and we would hike and we would go run and we would swim, like anything we could do to be outdoors, just existing. I don't know. I feel like as a whole, society is so overstimulated all the time that it was
Yeah.
so someone that appreciated the like the beauty and the stillness and the beauty and the simplicity and was able and willing and wanted to strip it all away and just exist with another person. And I feel like that's where our sweet spot was, is just being together. It didn't matter what we were doing. We didn't have to do anything. Like we could just be with each other.
Yeah, being present with
Mhm.
each other. And that's, I feel like, a lot of times, especially with being on with our phones all the time, and just there's so much getting our distracting us that we forget how important it is to stop and really truly be present in the moment with that person that you're with. So that's so beautiful, and thank you for sharing that. I also want to ask, because you said he lived, life to the fullest, and so what's one of the things that he did that just, like, living on the edge of life?
Well, he had a tattoo on his forearm of a DNA, the double helix, and it said type T, which I didn't know until I met him, but type T is a personality type. And
Oh,
something he learned from a therapist when he was in therapy years ago. But it's like your adrenaline junkies, your boundary pushers, your thrill seekers. Like that was him to a T, not to be like no pun intended. But I met him at the Drop Zone, which is a skydiving place in San Marcos, a town not too far from us. But he was literally skydiving when we met. And like to me, now I love skydiving, but then it was like, you guys are crazy. Like you're going so fast and you're landing so fast and like what is happening? So I mean, he was really into Muay Thai and had wanted to go on a 7 week trip to Thailand where he would train like all day, every day, very intense training with the best Muay Thai artist, in the world. And he was just like a boundary pusher. Like he wasn't afraid to try the things that would make most of us like so scared.
yeah.
Skydiving was for sure his biggest adrenaline, skydiving, like thrill seeking, like that was like his thing. Skydiving was,
Yeah.
but I mean, he was really down to try almost anything, I think.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Always up for a new adventure, right?
He went August of 25 to Pikes Peak, Colorado, which, if you're not familiar with Pikes Peak, it's 14,000 feet. So it's up there. And I had done it the year before with my mom and my son, and it took us about 13 hours, give or take, to go up. And so he and I did it with his son.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
Yeah, he was so funny because he's Mr. Survivalist. I always said if a zombie apocalypse happened, I was in good hands because he was going to make sure we survived. But he had this backpack full of like bear spray and a satellite radio and a stove and all this stuff. And I was like, where do you think we're going? And he was like, "Already you're hiking." And I was like, yeah, but I did this last year with like a liter of water and a box of Uncrustables. Like, I always say like he was doing the most, and he always said I wasn't doing enough. Um, but we hiked it, and for all the smack he talked about how underprepared I was, he was the one that I was literally dragging up the mountain because his muscles were seizing and he was crashing out in the
Oh
bag.
my goodness.
So he was like, "You were right. Like, I underestimated. Just leave me. I'm going to die on the mountain. I'm not going to make it up in time to catch the train down. Like, it's fine. Just go." And I was like, "You're being dramatic," but ever bigger, better, and more fun adventures. But he was just always like, his bag stays packed. It's still packed. Like, it stays ready to go if he needs to go off and hike or whatever. Like, he was ready.
And I guess also I was thinking too, as you were saying that, is how much weight did that bag have too on doing that?
Is what it he used to like train with it. He would just hike around carrying that bag. He told me at
So he
65
was used to it.
he was used to it. It was how he stayed strong, kept his back strong from a previous injury, but 65 pounds. And the impressive part was that his son, who we did this on his son's 16th birthday, actually carried the pack for some of the hardest parts of the climb, and like it was nothing. I was like, apple tree, you guys are cut from the same cloth. But yeah, he's a mess, but in the best way.
Yes. Well, I thank you for sharing such beautiful memories that you had with him and just his personality and what connected you to and the connection that you had together. So, whenever it feels okay, I mean, I would really love for you to share in what happened. What did those first moments, days feel like for you?
Um, I don't honestly remember. I think there's a little bit of like dissociation, probably subconsciously, probably as a way to like protect myself from those first few days. But um, I remember the moment that I got the call. I was super angry because I had filed a missing persons report that morning with our sheriff's department here, and some some things had happened to where I figured out that I thought he was down in Port Aransas, and so I actually called Port Aransas Police Department to say, I believe my boyfriend is there. I believe him to be in immediate danger from himself, and I was told a detective would call me back to get information about him, his car, things like that. And so the detective or the deputy, sheriff's deputy here, had come to my house to fill out the missing persons report. And I had asked him, like, best case, worst case, like, how do these things work? Like, if you guys find him and he's just like blowing off steam, needing a moment, how will you let us know? And if you find him and it's not okay, how will you let us know? And the one thing he kept saying was, we will tell you in person either way. We will send someone else. We do not do that kind of news over the phone. And I was like, okay. And then at 2:49, my phone rang and it said Port Aransas on it. So I thought it was the detective calling to get the information. And instead, all he said was, he asked to speak to me, and I said, "This is her." And he said, "Miss Gimpel, this is Detective Matt Johnson. And I'm so sorry to tell you, but Andres committed suicide on the beach this morning." And I was so angry in that moment because you're telling someone the worst news you could ever tell them.
Yeah.
and you're doing it over the phone. And I just remember being so mad because here a deputy just told me that those things are never done over the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And if they had my phone number, like, they're police, they have databases. Like, they could have looked up my address or my last known address and contacted my local PD or my local sheriff's department and had them send someone out. Because, as it was explained to me, they don't give that news over the phone because you don't know what the person receiving that news is going to do, what kind of
Yeah.
space that put them in, and the intent is to make sure they're safe and okay. And so I was super thankful that the deputy was here with me to make sure that I was okay and
That's good.
what did I need. And he offered to stay with me until my son could get home. But after that, it was just like a blur and a flurry. His Andres's best friend and I needed to get down to Port Aransas to try and get his belongings. And then, like, I had younger children that I had to make sure were taken care of. It was just like a swirl. And without going into too much detail, it took about 5 days for us to get his things. And that's a whole other podcast. But I just remember, like, I was just numb. Like,
Yeah.
people are asking me questions. My phone is ringing. Like, I didn't tell any of my friends for 2 days. I was sure that his son was okay. I needed to make sure Andres was okay, and taken care of, and whatever needed to be done to make sure he was good was good. And my son came down, and he really was making sure I was okay. Like, are we eating? Have we slept? Have we drank water? Things like that. But
Good
I was
son.
the best. Um, I would say for probably the first 3.5 months, I it felt like the movie Groundhog Day, where you wake up and you have to realize every day, like, what had happened and what you lost.
Yeah.
Um, and it was just survival mode. Like, unfortunately, for those of us, when we lose someone we love, like, the world doesn't stop. So,
Yeah.
I have kids who are in school and they have activities and things that needed to happen. And my job was amazing. And I was able to take a week off and they handled everything. But I did have to go back, like, bills have to be paid and, things
Yeah.
have to be. So I was really in survival mode.
Just going through the motions, essentially.
Making sure my kids were fed, they got to school, making sure that they saw me not crumbled 24/7, 365. Like, I'm very honest with my kids about emotions, so they've definitely sat with me while I've cried. But I wanted them to also see that I was okay because
Yeah.
I didn't want them, they're 13 and 8. I didn't want them, like, worrying about me when they needed to be, like, enjoying being a kid. So, yeah, just numb and survival mode. And I think in about 3.5 months is when I started to feel again.
Mm-hmm.
Was kind of not fun because then I felt, I think, all the emotions I hadn't felt since he died. So it was like reliving it again, but it felt more raw because I wasn't protected by the numbness anymore.
Yeah. All those emotions were coming up, and it's and that's part of the grieving process that we have to do, is just, instead of looking to other substances or whatever
Right.
to numb that, we are asked to sit with those emotions, and that can be so hard.
So hard.
And especially when, let's say, you're at HEB grocery shopping and all of a sudden you see something or someone, and you just have a moment of, like, that wave of emotion and grief just hits you out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to sit with those emotions in that time. But it's definitely a process
Yeah.
that you go moment by moment, and then it gets a little better, maybe an hour by hour, it gets a little more and more, but it's, early on, it's definitely moment by moment.
That's literally what I've told people, like, how are you doing? Some days I'm like, I'm breath by breath today, like
Yeah.
breath at a time. Some days I'm like, minute by minute. Some days I'm like 1 hour at a time. Some days it's, okay, I'm going to get through the morning. Okay, I'm going to get through the afternoon. And just when you feel like you've kind of got a footing on that balance of like honoring and processing your grief, but also moving forward through the grief, then you can wake up and bam, be like, okay, today's a breath by breath day. And like,
Yeah.
that's okay. That's part of the process. I've often joked that somebody needs to make a button and sell it that says grieving, like be gentle with me, because it's cliche. People say you never know what anyone's dealing with, but like you really don't. And like I can't tell you the number of times I've cried in the produce section at HEB. Blackberries are a huge trigger for me because he loved blackberries. He would eat a carton almost every day.
Wow.
Yeah, he said, it's really funny. He was like, yeah, blackberries, man. My grandma said they're the secret to like staying young. Blackberries, you got to eat your blackberries. And do you know why blackberries are so good for you? And he was like, no. And I was like, well, they have antioxidants that fight the free radicals in your body. And those free radicals create like the fine lines and the wrinkles. So yeah, grandma was right. Like each little young. And he was like, I don't think my grandma knew that part. And I was like, doesn't matter. Grandma was so crazy. And now whenever I'm in HEB getting berries for my son's lunches, like I see the blackberries. And now I'm almost to the point where it makes me chuckle and smile versus like a breakdown. But blackberries, who knew?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And, you know, to what you said about, you never know what someone's going through. Like for me, in going to HB for a while, I would buy flowers to put around his urn that I had on the table of Kaylin. And I'm sitting there. There were many times I'm not sitting there, but standing there in front of the flowers, deciding which ones to pick. And I'm like, you know, nobody really knows that I'm standing here trying to buy figure out what flowers I want to pick for my dead husband.
Yeah,
It's just these things, these emotions and grief that many of us hold on to and carry, and nobody knows.
yeah,
And we try our best to just get through the day.
right.
But there's never a day that we don't think about them, or
One,
that there's a something we look at or whatever that reminds us of them.
for sure.
So, yeah. And you had described grief as a spectrum.
Yeah.
What has that looked like for you?
So I read something in one of my online support grief groups, which has been so incredibly life-saving, but they likened grief to being like on a small canoe in the ocean, no land in sight. And so some days the sun is out, the ocean is calm, and you can paddle your canoe through the water very easily. Our day-to-day tasks, they feel less heavy. And
Mhm.
then some days the ocean can be going through the biggest storm ever, and your canoe feels like it's 1 inch away from capsizing, and down you go. So grief can be that sunny, calm ocean day all the way down to my boat's about to capsize.
Yeah,
And you can have that full spectrum all in one day. And
absolutely.
I've started saying, like, when people now, like people that are closer to me, they'll be like, okay, are we having like, is today a big wave day? Is it a little wave day? Is our ocean calm? And I'm like, yeah, right now, like the ocean's pretty calm. And then April 1st was the last day that I really had like a big wave day all day. And there wasn't anything significant about the date or the day or anything that happened that day. It was just like, my feelings of missing him were like right at the surface. And nothing I did that day made the waves get any smaller, and I just had to, like you said, sit with it and be like, okay, like the not the fastest way, because there's no fast way through this process, but the way that I have found to be the most helpful or the most healthy way is just to sit and let it happen.
Yeah.
Because if we try to push it to the side or shove it down, it doesn't go away, it gets bigger. And then the next time it comes up, it's more than it was if you would have
Absolutely.
let those waves, like, okay, like my anchor's in the ocean, I'm not going anywhere, so let's just sit here and ride it out. And then I know that after the storm, another sunny day with a calm ocean is bound to come.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And very, very accurate for sure. I remember. I mean, it's still to this day, it's almost 4 years later, and I still have those moments. So it's definitely, that's a good way to look at the waves of grief for sure.
Yeah.
So, what have been some of the most unexpected parts of your grief?
Ugh. So I'm a very logical person. I like things to have beginnings, middles, ends. Something starts, it's finished, it's packed away, like it's resolved. And I think the hardest part for me is really understanding that this is never going to resolve, like it's never going to get put in a box and put on a shelf because we're done with it, right? Like again, I will, as time continues to move forward, I will get more settled in moving forward through it, but it's always going to be a part of who I am, part of my story, the part, like it's space in my story. I don't know that it'll shrink over time, but it'll blend a little bit better, but it's
Mm-hmm.
going to be there. And so for me, like that's been hard because I'm like, ugh, I just want to like, like you break a bone, you get your cast, you wear it for X amount of time, and then your bone is healed, the cast is gone, and that's it. But like this, there's no finish line for this. Like I
Right.
guess the line is when years down the road when it's my time to pass and I pass, and then it's done because I'm gone. But
Yeah.
that's been the hardest. And then second to that, I think just being okay and being publicly vulnerable, not necessarily outspoken, like, hey guys, like I'm grieving today, pardon me, but just being in HEB or being in the studio and someone ask or whatever, and like having those emotions, being on a podcast and having those emotions like come over my face or the tears, like being okay and being vulnerable and going through my grief where others can see it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to take a moment here and honor you that you are allowing yourself to be open and vulnerable to in front of others as well, because in our society, it's like you're not supposed to show your emotions, or when
Right.
you're grieving or when you're going through something, you're not supposed to. And yeah, granted, there are some people that take it to the extreme, but I think in a healthy way, it's good to express that and
Yeah.
allow yourself to show that, because, or even like if you're having a day where the grief is heavier, to say, right now I'm grieving. It's a hard day, and you don't have the capacity for, if somebody's needing something from you or wanting you to talk more, maybe in that moment you don't have the capacity. And,
Right.
to honor yourself in that is beautiful.
I think there's also too, I think it's starting to change, but I think for so long being vulnerable was associated with being weak.
Mm-hmm.
So many people are afraid to show vulnerability because they're afraid that they're going to be perceived as being weak. Whereas I actually think being okay, being seen vulnerable is a strength.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're telling people like I'm not okay in this moment, and that's okay that I'm not okay, and there will be another moment, whether it's today, tomorrow, in a few days, where I will be fine. But right now, I'm just like taking a beat, like you said. Like I need space for myself, and I think there's something really beautiful about being okay, being vulnerable, because it really is like it's it's a strength.
Yes. And again, going back to the whole with technology and, all social media and society, there's this highlight reel of people and
Mhm.
living this, great life where you really don't know what people are truly going through. So I feel like
Right,
the more people are vulnerable and authentically showing who they are and what they're going through, that's not only healing for you,
right,
the person, whoever's going through in that moment, but it can be healing for the person that is witnessing that,
right,
because it's saying it's okay. Where you're not alone in the grief or whatever grief you're going through in that moment.
right.
So
Yep.
that's beautiful that you are doing that and making a difference in that way.
Yeah. Well, like you said, it's maybe it's selfish a little bit too, because it's very healing for me to feel like, A, I'm getting it out of my body, right? Like I'm
Yes.
sharing it with words, I'm sharing it with tears, with actions. Like it's healthy to get it out of my system, but also knowing that something I'm sharing may speak to someone who may be going through their own version of grief or their own version of loss, and something I may share or say or do helps them with their process. Like that is healing to me. And I think that's something I learned from him after he passed. He was really connected. He calls them his sky family, with the skydiving community, who is hands down like the most amazing group of people I've ever had the pleasure of knowing. But so many of them sat with me and shared with me moments where they had been in like a dark time or a hard time or struggling with something, and how big of an impact he had on their lives just by sharing moments where he had struggled, or stories, where he had been in a dark time, and how he helped pull them out of their space. And
Mhm.
I think that he found so much joy and purpose in, even if it was such a small piece, maybe it was just one conversation or a text message, hey, just checking on you, like knowing that he could have a small piece of something to do with helping someone else heal, I think just brought him such purpose and joy. And so I want my journey to not just be about my own healing and my own moving through grief, but if I can help someone else maybe navigate theirs a little less heavy, like that, that feels really nice to do.
Agreed. Agreed 100%. And which is why this podcast is here as well, because it's right there with you. So um we want to I started this, I mentioned it to somebody. I said, this is really a pay it forward podcast,
Yes.
because in these interviews and with myself and sharing my story, I want to keep paying it forward.
Yeah,
And everybody else that's on this podcast gets to do the same by their sharing their story.
absolutely.
So you also shared that part of your intention is to help shift the stigma around mental illness and suicide.
Yes.
So, what do you wish people understood about suicide loss?
I wish that people understood that suicide is the final symptom of mental illness. Whether that illness is short term, like just started, whether it's something that's been battling short term, long time, over a lifetime, whether it was chronic or episodic, like as human beings, we are hardwired to protect ourselves and preserve ourselves. So when an individual gets to the point where they feel like taking their own life is the only way, like their only option, it's not because they're wanting to die, it's they're wanting relief,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's relief from mental illness, whether it's relief from a physical pain, whether it's relief from an emotional trauma or an emotional situation. Like they just want whatever they're feeling and the pain, they just want it to stop.
Exactly.
That
Exactly.
that's that's their way of making that stop.
Hmm. Like
Or
when
people,
people say, that's so selfish of them. And I'm just like, I tell them, like, I don't believe that is. It's that they're in this moment that they're not in their right mind
correct.
in that moment. So they're not thinking about what they're going to do, how it's going to affect the people around them. All they're thinking about in that moment is just that pain, whatever pain, like you said, whatever pain that they're experiencing in that moment, that's the last resort for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And what do you say is misunderstood or not talked about enough around
I
that?
I think that suicide being a symptom of mental illness or emotional trauma or whatever the unique situation is. I think, like you said, people are like, oh, that's selfish. They just wanted to get out of X, Y, and Z. And it's like, yes, but no. Like,
Yeah,
they're not intentionally trying to hurt anyone, including themselves. They just want whatever's happening between their ears to stop. Like,
exactly.
and for most people who die by suicide, it's a combination of factors. And like, I can't imagine being in such physical pain that there's no way possible you have any mental clarity. Like, I mean, I'm such a wuss. If I have a toothache or a headache, like, forget it. Like, I can't even tell you what 2 plus 2 is. So to think of something like on that magnitude,
Hmm.
and then I also think, and I don't remember the exact wording of how it was used, but using the words like they died by suicide instead of like some of the other ways it's phrased, I think is a much more gentle and appropriate way to say it because I don't, yes, they made a choice to do it, but again, like it's not them that made the choice, it's the version of them that's struggling to the point of just needing relief. And so it's
Absolutely.
not themselves that's making that decision.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. So, during this time, what has supported you most?
Mm, that's a layered question, but I have to start with my boys. Like, I have four. They're 22, 20, 13, and 8. My 20-year-old is the one that I called after I got the call, and all I said to him was, I need you to come home. And obviously, I was crying, and he was like, are you okay? And I said, Andres is gone. He took his life this morning. And he said, okay. And he is he's at Texas A&M, so he's just shy of 2 hours away. But it was the fastest and safest drive he's ever taken to get back home. And in the process, he told his brothers, like, y'all cannot fight. Whatever mom tells you to do, do it. Don't fight with each other. Like, we need to be good for her.
Yeah.
And he held it down while Nate and I went to Port Aransas to attempt to get Andres' stuff, and then we weren't able to that weekend. We came back. He ended up going back down with me, but he was my rock. Like, I would not have made it without him. He was made sure I ate at least once a day. He was like, what's one productive thing we're doing for ourselves today?
Wow.
Showered today. Like, he was like, we've always been really close, but we are like insanely close now. Obviously my mom, like moms are moms, and you know, no explanation needed there. She was fantastic, and she wanted to do a lot of things and be there for me in a lot of different ways that I wasn't ready for. And I just had to tell her, like, I appreciate this, but that's not where I'm at right now. Like, this is what I need from you. And she, whatever I asked, she did it. Um, I have a really, really incredible tribe of friends. Like I said, I didn't share his passing for 2 days. And when I didn't contact any of them individually because I just didn't want to talk to anyone.
Yeah.
So once his son was made aware, I made a post on social media from his page or my page, but I tagged him so like his friends would see it, my friends would see it, but that was how everyone found out.
Okay.
I was not home when I did it. I was at the drop zone because I just wanted to feel close to him. And I didn't tell my son that I was doing it. So as soon as I did it, my phone started blowing up and I wasn't answering any calls. Well, my friends showed up at my house and my son ended up calling me in tears because he felt so overwhelmed because I wasn't answering, they were now calling his phone.
Oh, yeah.
A door, one of my friends tried to climb into our house through our doggy door, like we're there,
Wow.
okay. And we finally had to put a sign on the door that says like Libby's not home, she's fine, she's not answering her phone, like just stop. But through that, like within, I'd say within a few hours, there was a meal train set up for my family. There was our community supported us financially for a while. They fed us breakfast, lunch, and dinner for 2 months. And I don't think, if you've never been in a situation where sometimes just getting out of bed is the hardest thing you'll do all day, like the idea of having to figure out what to feed your family when you don't even feel like eating, like to have just even that burden taken off my plate for as long as it was such a blessing. Um,
Mhm.
People we don't even know donated, meal gift cards or dropped off food. And just to feel the support from our community as a whole was just such a blessing. And, my best friend and my life wife were like, come over and mop my floors or vacuum my carpet, check my mail, get my, like, parents took my kids to and from activities. Like, they really, they really carried us for those first few months. Um, Also, I've talked about it before. There's an online support group that I'm a part of, and it's for women that have lost their person to
Mhm.
suicide. And so it's just been so nice to be connected with people who know exactly what I'm going through. It's unfortunate that that club, as we call it, has to even exist,
Yes.
but it's so nice to hear from women who are further out than I am and how their process has gone and how some of them have gone on to find their chapter two and they've gotten married, or for the women who are just now starting their journey. I mean, I'm only 6.5 months out, but like I'm able to offer comfort and words to the ones who are just fresh because I've been where they've been.
Right.
So yeah, that's been really, really nice.
Well, that's beautiful. And definitely would love to include that group in the show notes. So if anybody in the area that has lost someone, that they can connect with that group as well.
For sure.
Um, so what does grieving out loud mean to you, and why is that so important?
It goes back to the vulnerability and what healthy healing looks like for me. Grieving out loud is just giving myself permission and the space to feel whatever I need to feel whenever I need to feel it.
Yeah.
Um, I am a Pilates instructor, um, as well as the studio GM, but there have been times where I'm literally teaching a class and a certain song will come on that'll trigger a memory, and then I'm like, thankfully they're laying down so they can't see me, but like I'm trying to guide them through their flow while like choking back tears. But just wherever I'm at, whatever needs to be felt in that moment, and then even being out loud and verbalizing it, like, hey, I'm so sorry, I'm going to step out for a minute, like I need a,
Yes.
or apologizing, like, please keep telling me your story. I know I'm crying, but it's not because of what you're saying. It's just having a moment. Like, just really giving myself permission to live in whatever space needs to be lived in that moment.
Yeah. And also even opening up for to people that are standing in front of you when you do have those moments, that it's okay, because I feel like people don't want to go there because they don't want you to cry or show emotion, because they, they're just trying to be nice and, but I feel like we we want to talk about our person
Of course.
and we want to share those things, and even though it might bring tears to our eyes and there might be days when we talk about them and we don't shed a tear,
Right.
but you know even if we do, it's okay because we want their memory to carry on,
Right.
and they were such a huge part of our lives that we want to share it,
Yeah.
even if we are crying. It's okay. just
Yeah.
just you being interested in listening to the story, right? It's like
Yeah.
that's enough. That's, we're okay.
I think too, and it goes back to like changing the stigma about grief and all the things. Like, we're not raised to know how to sit with someone who's grieving.
Hmm.
Like, uncomfortable for people who aren't in the process or who haven't been in the process because they want to be there for us, and but they don't know what to say because we're not raised, not everyone is raised with empathy or like how what that looks like or how you can show up for others. And so I think it makes people uncomfortable, not because of what's happening to us, but because they don't
Right.
know, and they don't know how to act. And I remember shortly after he passed, maybe it did a month or so, I posted like on my story, I was like, everyone wants to know like what they can do to help me. And I was like, sit with me, like ask me about how we met, ask me like my favorite date with him, like ask me questions about him, about our relationship, because like you said, talking about them doesn't doesn't make it harder or less hard, but it brings them back.
Hmm.
Just the amount of time that we're sharing that story, it keeps them alive, and it brings them back to us just for a few minutes.
Yes, absolutely. mm. Just gonna pause and sit with that for a moment.
So I did. I had friends reach out and say like, let me take you to coffee. I'd love to hear the story of how you guys met. Or, like, I saw this picture from this date that y'all did. Like, tell me about that. And, like, it was so nice because most of the times when I tell those stories, it makes me smile, and it takes me out of my grief for
Yes.
just a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as we wind down on our conversation, one thing that I always want to end with is, if someone is listening right now, going through something similar, what would you want them to hear?
I would want them to hear that it is okay to not be okay. Like, you do not have to be strong, not for yourself, not for your family, not for anyone. Like, it's okay to feel like you're a complete mess and you don't know how to do what you have to do. Like, it's okay. It's okay not to be okay. But also, I would say find someone or someone's or a group or a safe space that you can talk to. Because I'm super blessed that I have the family and the friends and the community and the online group that I do have, to where I don't feel like I'm completely alone. Even if they
Yes,
really understand what I'm going through, they're there for me, so I don't have to do this by myself.
absolutely. And also, what has this experience taught you about love?
Ugh. People ask like, if you knew how it was going to end, would you do it again? And I'm like, yes. Like, I grieve so big because I love bigger. And if anything, his death, and it, again, it sounds cliche, like live every day to the fullest, you never know what tomorrow may bring, but like
Absolutely.
it really does have a way of clarifying for me um, just how much we worry about on a day to day basis that literally doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I have this friend, she's a longtime friend, and when her kids come to her complaining, she'll say, okay, is this a big problem or a little problem? You know, if it's a little problem, you can solve it by yourself. If it's a big problem, like mom will help you. And I love that because my tolerance is almost non-existent for little problems now. So I don't know, it's just his death has just really like sharpened my focus on putting my energy and efforts into things that truly matter, like being present with my kids, being whatever the case is. And then in terms of love, like I'm only 45. So realistically, I know that I am too young to that I'm going to be single forever. And I know that I'll never have what we had because that was unique to us. But I do believe that at some point in time when I'm ready, I will meet someone and we will build something that's unique to us. And I'm not like jaded to love. I think love is very beautiful, whether it's friendship, coworker, you know, romantic partner.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been a little bit of a hopeless romantic, and
Same.
I still am. And I think that part of the grief process and getting to the point where you are open to receiving love like that again is understanding that I can save space for Andres and what we had. It's still create a space with someone new. Um, One of my friends explained it best. Like, for those of us who have more than one kid, like, you don't love your first child any less because you have another one. Like,
Mm-hmm.
your heart grows bigger, and now you've got love for both of them. And so I know, like, again, down the road when I am ready, my heart will just grow bigger to incorporate the new love while still honoring.
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, in the story that you shared of the connection that you had and the love that you had for each other, um, you know, just in like having that realization, wow, it really is, it's possible still. There are men out there that you can have that connection with. And,
Right.
you know, that because sometimes I feel like we, especially when you're in the dating world, you get in this like, is it really possible? I keep going through, you know, but
Yeah.
when you finally experience that, you're like, ah, yes, it is still possible.
It is possible. You know, after he died, I was like, oh, like, why did God bring us together if he knew we were going to be taken apart? And I've been able to answer that question on both sides, like what I was able to give to Andres and what he definitely gave to me. And he really helped clarify to me that the things that I was asking for aren't like asking too much. I was just asking the wrong people.
Yeah,
And like he did those things without me asking, number one, and he did them so effortlessly because it's just who he was. And so I always joke that like he set the bar so high, but the irony was he wasn't trying to set a bar, he was just being himself, but he like truly solidified my thought process of what I deserved and showed me that I do deserve what I think I deserve. And it's not asking too much when it's the right person, like those things.
absolutely.
So,
Yeah. And thank you for that because I feel like, I mean, I'm speaking to women, but like, I feel like a lot of us women, we tend to feel like asking for those things, we're being too much.
right.
And, you know, to have someone help you feel like you're not being too much. And just like you said, you know, you're just asking the wrong person.
Yeah.
And it makes so much sense because to that right person, you're not too much.
Right.
So, and thank you. I really want to honor you again and thank you for trusting me and everyone listening with your story. So, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you for having me. Truly.
Absolutely. And if you're listening to this and something in you was stirred, nothing you felt while listening to this was wrong.
Amen.
Amen. All right.
Before we close, we want to remind you that if today's episode brought up difficult emotions, support is available and you do not have to go through it alone. In the US and Canada, you can call or text 988 to reach the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline 24 hours a day. You can also text HOME home to 741 to connect with the crisis text line. Veterans and service members can contact the Veterans Crisis Line by dialing 988 and pressing 1. If you are outside the U.S., please reach out to your local crisis support services or emergency resources in your area. Thank you for listening, for holding space for these conversations, and for being here.